A very good evening. Welcome to the world now at 4 on Hills TV. I am Uduak Daniel. First, let's talk the headlines. And on the headlines, expectations are high for a new ECOWAS chairman, Vice President Osibajo. Still on the headlines, Angola hosts meeting between DRC and Rwanda. Also on the headlines, Putin orders Russians to fight on after key Ukraine city falls. And on sport, FRSC to deploy breathalyzers for Salah celebrations. And now the news in detail. Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osibajo says expectations are high from President Sisoko Embalo of Guinea-Bissau as he assumes chairmanship of the West African regional body. Osibajo stated this while speaking with journalists at the end of the 61st ordinary session of the Economic Community of West African States, that is ECOWAS, held in Accra, Ghana. He said the leaders must work harder to resolve lingering issues in the region. According to the vice president, adding that the President Nana Akufo-Addo did an excellent job in a very challenging period in the history of ECOWAS and many of the challenges remaining. The vice president disclosed that the new leadership under the President Sisoko Embalo must step up efforts and address those very many Akufo-Addo. The efforts and commitment of Nigeria under President Mohamed Adamu has directed that unity schools in the country must be guided by the principles of fairness, equity, and good conscience in the conduct of the admission as principals of the nation's 110 unity colleges converged on Monday in Benin City. He said that the process must reflect the ideals of the founding fathers of unity colleges as centers of academic excellence. The minister directed principals to adhere strictly to the criteria for the selection, which is 60% national merit, 30% equality of state, and 10% exigency. Earlier in her welcome address, the chairperson of principals of Federal Unity Colleges, Yakubu Onyinloye, said government's guidelines on merit and equity and equality of states will be followed strictly so as to get the best candidates for the nation's unity colleges. And away from that, let's head on to Kano State and have you know that the Kano State government says it is aiming at 12 million children below the age of 5 years for the July to October for seasonal malaria chemo prevention exercise in 44 local government areas of the state. The Commissioner for Health, Aminu Sanyawa, made this known at a news conference in Kano on Monday ahead of the exercise. Sanyawa stressed that the 4-day exercise would be conducted alongside the annual Maternal, Newborn and Child Health Week. The aim, he said, was to prevent complicated and severe malaria incidences among age groups. Sanyawa expressed optimism that the current round of exercise would also achieve greater impact considering the government's increased support. The exercise would provide nutritional status screening for over 3 million children and also be conducted. And the twin exercises would begin on July 5 and would last for 4 days. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, that is SERAP, and other education rights groups such as the Reform Education Nigeria and Education Rights Campaign have knocked the regime of the President Mohamed institutions. Newsman reported that the strike declared by the Joint Action Committee of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Education and other allied institutions, which began on March 25, 2022, also entered the 68th day to meet ASU resolve the issues as kept poor while the children of the country's politicians attend private schools. When we return, news from other parts of Africa. Don't go away. This is The World Now at 4 on Hills TV. This time, let's get to Angola, the capital precisely, that is Luanda. And have you know that Luanda will be hosting a meeting on Wednesday, July 5th, in an attempt at mediation between the president of the DRC, that is the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Felix Tshisekedi and Paul Kagame, as relations between the two countries have been deteriorating for several weeks amid the resurgence of the M23 rebel movement and the invasion at the end of last year, blaming the Congolese authorities for not respecting an agreement for the demobilization and reintegration of their fighters. In May and June, M23 attacks caused the death of several dozen civilians. More than 170,000 were displaced to neighboring Uday that the armed forces would. General Abdel Fattah adding that everyone has the right to express their opinion and sacrifices of the people are appreciated, adding that, as well, the armed forces will not stand in its way. According to reports since last year's coup, the UN and other regional blocs have tried to have a broker on council but did not specify any dates or who would replace the military at the negotiating table. We now move to other parts of the world after this break. Do stay with us. Putin has ordered Russian troops to press their offensive deeper into the Donbas region of eastern Ukraine after Moscow's forces seized the strategic city of Lysychansk. With the war now well into its fifth month after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, before governments and organizations gathered for a conference in Switzerland to launch a plan to rebuild the country, even as the conflict shows no sign of abating. The loss of Lysychansk over the weekend prompted Ukrainian President Volodymyr can keep up the resistance and regain lost territories. After giving up on its initial war aim of capturing Kiev following tough Ukrainian resistance, Russia has focused its efforts on securing control of Donetsk and Lugansk areas, which makes up the Donbas region. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu told President Vladimir Putin at a meeting that to preserve the life of his troops after finding itself outnumbered and outgunned by Russian forces there. Stepping away from that story and more story coming up, officials said Tuesday businesses, schools and last major economy wedded to a zero-COVID strategy, deploying snap lockdowns, quarantines and travel curbs in a bid to remove the new infections. According to official notices, Xi'an, a historic city of 13 briefing that Xi'an would implement 7-day temporary control measures that would allow society to quieten down as much as possible, reduce mobility, and cut the risk of cross-infection. Public entertainment venues, including pubs, internet cafes, restaurants will not be allowed to serve dinners out indoors, but may continue to offer takeaway day early, and universities will seal off their campuses. And now let's get on to the U.S. and have you know that Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, the shooting took place in the wealthy Chicago suburb of Highland Park, and the White House has pledged support for those affected by the shooting. Police confirmed late on Monday they had captured a person of interest they had earlier named in the shooting, 22-year-old Robert E. Cremo III, who was first recovered from the scene. Jim Anthony, a spokesperson for the North Shore University Health System, told media that more now at 4, where we bring you news from all over the world. Ahead of the plans to buy the Federal Capital Territory, that is the FCT, to stop the Capital Territory, that is the FCT, and enforcement, Comrade Ikara Ata to order. They argued that the issue of criminality, which was reported in one of the gardens. In other matters, the federal government financial spending in Nigeria and help reverse capital flight. Speaking on the topic, strengthening Nigerian content implementation with the 7 ministerial regulations at the ongoing Nigeria Oil and Gas Conference, noted that with regard to monetization, that is, the ICRC is planning to gazette 53 eligible and bankable public-private partnership projects valued at $22 billion of the ICRC. The Nigerian government had approved PP and bankable PPP projects valued at $17 billion. It is the world now at 4.
Beautiful evening to you and welcome to Sport News on World Now at 4. I'm Richard Badung. On Sport News, South Africa's Bayana defeated Nigeria's Super Falcons 2-1 in the opening game of Group C at the 12th Women Africa Cup of Nations on Monday. 9-time champions and FIFA World Place in Lagos, Nigeria. In the first 45 minutes, both teams were unable to achieve any breakthrough. But South Africa were up 2-0 within 2 minutes of the hour mark after Jermaine Seposenwe hooked the ball into the Nigeria defense to get a clear deficit when she found the ball at her feet in the box after a good work and passed by Captain Onome Ebi. Speaking after the game, head coach of the Falcons, Randy Waldrum, commented on the outcome of racing depending on the sophistication of the vehicle. Driving conditions were tricky and initially very bumpy, so not great for the grassroots motorsports. Away from Formula 1 down to football, where League One champions Paris Saint-Germain have confirmed the departure of head coach Mauricio Pochettino after 18 months. His manager, Christopher Galtier, is expected to replace the 50-year-old Argentine. Pochettino leaves Paris Saint-Germain after guiding them to a record equaling 10th French title, his first league success as a manager. The 22-year-old tested positive in June before the first test, which England lost 30-28. May spent 7-day election challenge for head coach Eddie Jones, who is already without Tom Curry after the flanker withdrew from the squad because of concussion on Monday. Curry, who plays for Sale at 10:55 and the final match is scheduled for the same time on 16 July. And that's your sport news on World Now at 4. Back to Udwak Daniel for the rest of the news. I'm Richard Badum.
Great inputs right there from Richard Badung. Thank you so much for that sports. To test motorists in order to detect those who drive under the influence of alcohol during the Eid al-Adha Salah festivities. The sector commander of FRSC, Ahmed Umar, made this known in an interview with newsmen on Tuesday. Subject NDLEA would be engaged for this purpose during the festival. Would not be released until after the check road traffic violations, that is the RTV,